In the year 2397, Earth had changed more than anyone could have imagined. For centuries, humans had looked up at the stars with wonder, dreaming about other worlds and whether anyone else lived out there. Now those dreams had become reality. Earth was no longer alone. It had joined a group of planets that worked together, something like a big family but on a galactic scale. This group was called the Celestial Concord. The Celestial Concord was led by the Galactic Council, a powerful group made up of representatives from many different planets and species. They promised peace and fairness across the stars. Earth had taken its first steps among these stars carefully, hoping to build friendships, learn new things, and find its place in this vast universe. Among all the new friends Earth had made, the Volari stood out the most. The Volari were a beautiful, wise species, known for their peaceful ways and incredible technology. Their home planet was rich in glowing forests and clear blue skies, and their people had a deep respect for nature and life. They had helped Earth when it needed them most. Long ago, when Earth faced a terrible environmental crisis, the Volari shared their knowledge and technology to help save the planet. That act of kindness had built a bond between the two worlds that was strong and true. The friendship between Earth and the Volari became the heart of the Celestial Concord. Scientists, artists, and leaders traveled back and forth between the two planets, sharing ideas and stories. They learned from each other, laughed together, and faced challenges side by side. Many on Earth believed this friendship was a new beginning for the galaxy, a chance to build something better. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about this. The Galactic Council was made up of many different species, and some of them grew uneasy watching Earth rise so quickly in power and influence. The Volari's support made Earth stronger, and some council members saw this as a threat. They worried that the balance of power in the galaxy would shift, and they wanted to keep their control. Quiet whispers and secret meetings began behind closed doors. Some council members talked about Earth and the Volari as if they were dangers that needed to be controlled, or worse, removed. At first, these were just rumors, stories that Earth's leaders tried to ignore. But as time passed, the signs became harder to miss. One evening on Earth's capital world, a group of officials gathered in a secure room. They watched the stars through the wide windows, thinking about the news that had just come in. The Volari home planet had stopped sending messages. There was no response to calls, no sign of activity. Something was terribly wrong. Panic spread quickly. Earth's military and scientists scrambled to find out what happened. Soon, satellites captured images showing devastating destruction. Cities on the Volari homeworld reduced to rubble, fires burning across their glowing forests, and massive craters where peaceful lands once thrived. But most shocking of all were the ships leaving the scene. Enormous warships marked with the insignia of the Galactic Council. Earth's leaders refused to believe it at first. How could the Council, the very group that promised peace, destroy their closest allies without warning? They demanded answers, but the Council remained silent or gave vague excuses, blaming unknown enemies or accidents. Earth's pleas were met with coldness and denial. Behind the scenes, the truth was darker. Some council members had feared the Volari-Earth alliance would change everything. They believed that if these two worlds grew too strong together, they could challenge the Council's control over the galaxy. So in secret, they had agreed to eliminate the Volari before their friendship with Earth could grow stronger. This betrayal cut deep. Earth felt like a knife had been plunged into its very soul. The people mourned the loss of their friends and the destruction of a bond they had hoped would unite the stars. Yet amid the sadness, a fierce determination began to grow. Earth's leaders knew they could not let this act of treachery go unanswered. The story spread across Earth's cities and towns. In every corner, people gathered to remember the Volari and to talk about what should be done next. Ordinary citizens, soldiers, scientists, and diplomats all felt a deep sadness but also a growing resolve. This was no longer just a political issue. It was a matter of honor, justice, and survival. Across the planet, people lit candles and held vigils for the Volari. They shared stories about their kindness, their wisdom, and the hope they had given humanity. For many, it was the first time they truly understood how fragile peace was and how easily trust could be broken. At the same time, behind the scenes, Earth's military began to prepare. Ships that had been used for exploration and defense were upgraded and armed. Pilots trained harder. Scientists developed new technology, and leaders discussed plans carefully. They were not looking for revenge or conquest, but they wanted to be ready to protect Earth and to send a clear message to the galaxy. Such betrayal would not be tolerated. In the midst of this, a shocking turn of events happened. A high-ranking official from the Galactic Council, one who had grown tired of the lies and violence, secretly contacted Earth. This official risked everything to deliver evidence proving the Council's role in destroying the Volari. Documents, recordings, and secret meeting transcripts showed clearly that the Council had planned and carried out the attack. This evidence shook Earth's leaders. It confirmed what many had feared and gave them the proof they needed to demand justice. The official's bravery was a spark of hope, showing that even in the darkest places there were those willing to stand for truth. The people of Earth responded with unity. Political differences faded as leaders from all backgrounds came together to face the crisis. Scientists, diplomats, and military officers worked side by side. The usual arguments and debates were replaced by a common purpose. This was a moment when humanity acted as one. The story of Earth and the Volari was no longer just about two worlds. It was a symbol of trust and betrayal, friendship and loss. It was a warning that peace could be fragile, but also a call to action that justice must be served. In quiet moments, many on Earth thought about the Volari, their glowing forests, the sound of their peaceful songs and the warmth of their friendship. They promised never to forget. And as Earth prepared for what lay ahead, its people carried with them the hope that one day justice would bring healing to the galaxy. The shock of the attack on the Volari homeworld had barely settled when Earth's leaders began to realize something even more troubling. The Galactic Council was not just ignoring the attack, they seemed to be hiding the truth. At first, the Council gave excuses. They said it was the work of rebels or enemies unknown, some shadowy group trying to destabilize peace. They spoke in vague words, promising to investigate, but no real action followed. Earth's people did not believe those words. The images from the satellites were clear. The Council's warships were seen leaving the Volari world, and it was impossible to ignore the signs. It became obvious that the Council was protecting its own members, hiding behind lies and silence. At the same time, Earth's scientists and analysts worked day and night, studying every bit of data they could get. They found strange patterns. Communications erased, records altered, and entire groups within the Council moving money and resources in secret. It felt like a deep web of deceit, one that ran through the highest levels of power. Earth's diplomats tried again and again to get answers, sending requests for meetings, pressing the Council to explain. But each time the doors were closed, the messages unanswered. The once respected Council had become a wall of silence and suspicion. The sense of betrayal grew. The Volari had been friends, allies who shared their wisdom and care for life. And now they were gone, destroyed without a chance to defend themselves. Earth's leaders felt a weight on their shoulders, not only for their lost friends, but also for their own people. Across Earth, people watched the news and talked in quiet groups. They felt fear, but also anger. The betrayal was not just political. It was personal. For many, it was a moment that changed how they saw the galaxy. The idea that the Council was a fair and just force was shattered. Trust was broken. Among Earth's citizens, stories began to spread. Stories from those who had met the Volari, who had worked with them, who had seen their kindness firsthand. They spoke of the peaceful forests, the glowing trees, the gentle ways of the Volari people. They told of shared dreams for a better future, one where many worlds could live in harmony. Now those dreams seemed in danger. But in the face of this darkness, hope also started to shine. One night, deep inside Earth's capital, an unexpected visitor arrived. A figure cloaked in secrecy slipped through guarded corridors to meet with Earth's leaders. This visitor was from the Galactic Council, someone who had once been part of the system but could no longer support the lies and betrayal. This official risked everything to bring the truth. Hidden in encrypted files, they carried proof of the Council's plan, the decision made behind closed doors to destroy the Volari. Documents showed secret votes, orders given, and ships sent to carry out the attack. There was no mistake, no accident. It was a deliberate act. Earth's leaders listened in stunned silence. The evidence was clear and undeniable. It was a painful confirmation of what many had feared. But with this proof came power, the power to act, to demand justice, and to reveal the truth to the galaxy. The visitor stayed only for a short time before disappearing into the shadows. But the message they brought changed everything. Earth was no longer alone in this fight. There were others inside the council who wanted change, who opposed the cruelty and lies. The news spread quickly across Earth. People gathered in homes, public squares, and virtual rooms sharing the story. The betrayal of the Valari and the cover-up by the council became a rallying cry. It was a moment when old divisions faded away, and a new unity was born. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders worked together, sharing ideas and plans. They studied new ways to protect Earth and to prepare for what might come next. Ships were upgraded with advanced technology, and pilots trained harder than ever before. The military was no longer just for defense. It became a symbol of resolve and hope. But this was not about revenge. Earth's leaders made it clear that their goal was justice, not conquest or domination. They wanted to hold those responsible accountable, to stop the cycle of violence and to protect all worlds that valued peace. Meanwhile, people from all walks of life joined the effort. Students volunteered to learn about space technology. Artists created murals and songs to remember the Valari. Everyday citizens donated their time and resources to support the new mission. This growing spirit of unity was perhaps Earth's greatest strength. It reminded everyone that even in dark times, hope and courage could shine bright. At the same time, Earth began reaching out to other planets and species. They shared the truth about the Council's betrayal and invited others to join a new alliance, one built on honesty, respect, and mutual protection. Not everyone responded immediately. Some were afraid to oppose the powerful Council, others doubted Earth's intentions. But many listened, and slowly a movement began to grow. Among the stars, whispers of change spread. A new hope was born, not just on Earth, but in the hearts of many who had suffered under the Council's rule. Yet despite these hopeful signs, the path ahead was not easy. Earth's leaders knew they faced powerful enemies who would not give up control without a fight. The betrayal of the Valari was only the beginning of a larger struggle, but for now, Earth stood firm. They honored the memory of their lost friends by standing tall, by refusing to be silent, and by preparing to face whatever came next. In quiet moments, people on Earth looked up at the stars and thought of the Valari, their glowing forests, their peaceful songs, and the light they had brought into the galaxy. That light, they promised, would never be extinguished. Instead, it would guide them forward. And so, with heavy hearts but steady hands, Earth began its journey toward justice. A journey that would test the courage, strength, and spirit of all humanity. The news about the Valari's destruction and the Galactic Council's secret role sent shockwaves through Earth. At first, there was silence, a deep sadness that felt like a heavy fog covering the world. But slowly that silence turned into a quiet, determined roar. People from all walks of life began to realize that the time for waiting was over. On every continent, in every city and small town, people talked about what had happened. They spoke in homes, cafes, markets, and on the streets. The Valari were gone, and the truth was clear. They had been betrayed by those who claimed to protect peace. Earth had lost a friend, and something inside the people had changed. The leaders of Earth understood that this was a moment of choice. They could either stay silent, hoping to avoid war and keep peace, or stand up and fight for justice. The decision was not easy. The Galactic Council was powerful, and going against them meant great risks. But the betrayal was too deep, and the need for justice was too strong. A council of Earth's most trusted leaders was formed, made up of people with different skills and views, but one shared goal: to protect humanity and honor the Valari. Scientists, diplomats, soldiers, and thinkers came together. They began working day and night, planning for what might come next. Earth's defense forces were no longer just tools of protection. They were being prepared to act. Ships once used only for exploration were now fitted with stronger shields, better weapons, and faster engines. Pilots trained harder, learning new tactics and strategies. It was clear that if Earth was going to stand against the Galactic Council, it needed to be ready. At the same time, the people of Earth did not lose sight of why they fought. The goal was not to destroy or conquer, but to seek justice and protect those who could not protect themselves. This mission gave hope to many. In cities and towns, people shared stories of the Valari, how they had helped Earth, what they had taught, and the kindness they showed. Artists painted murals of glowing forests and peaceful skies. Writers and musicians created works that remembered the Valari's culture and spirit. These stories helped keep the memory alive and inspired courage in the hearts of many. While Earth prepared, messages began to spread across the galaxy. Earth sent out calls to other planets, telling them the truth about the Council's betrayal and asking for help. Many worlds had long felt uneasy under the Council's rule. They had seen the power struggles, the secret deals, and the quiet suffering of smaller planets. Some listened carefully to Earth's message. Slowly, an alliance started to form, a group of planets and species who believed in fairness, honesty, and peace. They called themselves the Coalition of the Eradicated, because many had lost friends or homes to the Council's harsh decisions. This coalition was not yet large or strong, but it was growing. Back on Earth, life changed in many ways. People felt the weight of what was to come, but also the strength of their unity. Communities organized support groups for families affected by the crisis. Schools included lessons about the importance of truth and justice. Every person, no matter how small their role, became part of something bigger. In the military, a new spirit took hold. Pilots and soldiers weren't just following orders, they were driven by a sense of purpose. They trained together, shared stories, and prepared to face a challenge unlike anything before. The ships in Earth's fleets were no longer just machines. They became symbols of hope and determination. But the Galactic Council did not sit quietly. They saw Earth's preparations and the growing coalition as threats. They increased their patrols, tightened controls, and sent messages warning others not to trust Earth. Some planets, afraid of the Council's power, stayed silent or even sided with them. The galaxy was becoming divided and the tension was rising. Despite the danger, Earth's leaders chose transparency. They shared their plans openly with the public, explaining why they must stand up and what they hoped to achieve. This honesty deepened the trust between the people and their leaders, giving Earth a strong sense of purpose and unity. Then, a surprise happened. One of the Galactic Council's own high-ranking officials, tired of the lies and cruelty, secretly contacted Earth again. This time, the official brought more than proof. They brought warnings and advice. They told Earth about the Council's weaknesses, its secret fears, and the divisions inside it. This insider knowledge was invaluable. It helped Earth's leaders plan more carefully and avoid traps. It also gave hope to those who believed change was possible, even within the Council. With the coalition growing, Earth's leaders began planning a new kind of mission, not a war of destruction, but a campaign to expose the truth and bring those responsible to justice. They wanted to show the galaxy that betrayal could not be hidden forever. People across Earth prepared for this mission in different ways. Scientists worked on new communication systems to broadcast messages widely. Diplomats reached out to hesitant planets, offering support and friendship. Artists and writers created works to inspire courage and remind everyone of what was at stake. Families gathered to talk about hope and courage. Young people dreamed of a future where the stars were safe for all, and those who had once felt powerless now stood ready to help in any way they could. The path ahead was uncertain and dangerous. The Galactic Council was powerful and ruthless, and the struggle for justice would not be easy. But Earth was no longer just a single planet. It was the heart of a growing movement, a movement that believed in truth, justice, and the power of unity. In the quiet moments before the coming storm, people looked to the stars and remembered the Valari. They thought of their glowing forests, their peaceful ways, and the friendship they had shared. Those memories became a light in the darkness, a promise that even in the hardest times, hope and courage could guide the way forward. And so, with heavy hearts but steady spirits, Earth prepared to take the next step. The journey toward justice had begun. After months of quiet preparation, the world finally began to feel the weight of what was coming. The betrayal of the Valari had changed everything. It was no longer just a distant tragedy. It was a call to action for everyone on Earth. People everywhere sensed that the future of their planet, and perhaps the whole galaxy, was about to be tested. In the beginning, many felt a mix of fear and uncertainty. It was hard to imagine standing against the powerful Galactic Council. The Council had ruled for centuries, holding control over countless worlds. Their warships were massive and strong, and their influence stretched far beyond what Earth had ever known. But fear soon gave way to something stronger: determination. The betrayal had ignited a fire within humanity. People realized that if they didn't stand up now, their world and others could suffer the same fate as the Valari. This realization brought communities closer together. Old arguments were set aside. Differences faded. There was only one goal: to protect what mattered most. Schools began teaching new lessons about the importance of unity and courage. Families talked openly about the future and what they hoped to achieve. Artists and writers created powerful works that told stories of hope and resistance. The memory of the Valari inspired a new generation to believe that change was possible. On Earth's battle stations, the mood was focused and serious. Pilots trained long hours, perfecting maneuvers and learning how to work together as a team. Technicians upgraded ships with the latest technology, making them faster and more resilient. Commanders studied the secrets shared by the Council insider, preparing strategies that could help Earth's forces stand strong against the Council's might. Meanwhile, diplomats worked tirelessly, reaching out to worlds beyond Earth's borders. They spoke honestly about the Council's betrayal and invited other species to join the new coalition. Not all planets responded right away. Some were afraid, others cautious. But many heard the message and saw the truth. They chose to stand with Earth. This growing alliance was small but powerful. It was built on trust, shared values, and a hope for a better future. The coalition of the Eradicated, as it was called, became a beacon of light for those who believed in justice. Back on Earth, everyday life carried on, but with a new sense of purpose. People volunteered to support the mission in any way they could. Some worked in research labs helping develop new technology. Others joined community groups to support families affected by the conflict. Even children learned about the importance of standing up for what was right. As the days passed, the tension in the galaxy increased. The Galactic Council grew suspicious and aggressive. They sent patrol ships closer to Earth, trying to intimidate and spy. Their propaganda machines spread lies, trying to paint Earth as the enemy. But Earth and its allies did not back down. They continued to share the truth, showing evidence of the Council's betrayal. Their messages reached more and more worlds, inspiring hope and courage. One day, Earth's leaders received urgent news. A Council fleet was heading toward a small planet in the coalition, planning to attack and destroy it before the alliance could grow stronger. This planet was home to a peaceful species that had recently joined the coalition, drawn by Earth's message of unity. The threat was clear. If the Council succeeded, it would send a message to the galaxy that resistance was futile. It would crush the hopes of many and deepen the fear that had held the stars for so long. Earth's leaders acted quickly. They called an emergency meeting, bringing together military commanders, scientists, and diplomats. The goal was to protect the small planet and show the galaxy that the coalition would stand together. The plan was risky. Earth and its allies did not have the strength to face the entire Council fleet directly. Instead, they decided to use strategy, teamwork, and the new technologies developed in recent months. They focused on protecting key areas and disrupting the Council's plans without engaging in full-scale battle. Pilots flew into space with determination, knowing that the future of many worlds depended on their success. Technicians monitored the battle stations, working tirelessly to keep communications clear and ships operating at full strength. Commanders coordinated every move carefully, learning from every step to improve their tactics. As the battle began, people on Earth watched with hope and fear. Families gathered around screens, holding their breath as the first ships moved into position. Across the galaxy, allies tuned in, their hearts united in the fight for justice. The conflict was intense. The Council's warships were powerful and experienced, but Earth's forces were clever and brave. They used their knowledge of the enemy and their own strengths to push back the attack. Small victories were won, and the Council fleet was slowed. The battle became a symbol. It showed that even against great power, courage and unity could make a difference. The story of this fight spread quickly, inspiring others to join the coalition and stand against oppression. But the leaders of Earth knew this was only the beginning. The Council would not give up easily. The road ahead would be long and difficult. Still, the memory of the Valari gave them strength. Their glowing forests and peaceful ways were not forgotten. They were a reminder of what was worth fighting for, a future where many worlds could live together in peace and respect. After the battle, Earth's leaders met again. They knew more challenges were coming. They had to be ready for whatever the Council might try next. But they also knew they were not alone. The coalition was growing and hope was spreading. People on Earth returned to their daily lives, but they carried the spirit of the fight with them. They were part of something greater, a movement for justice that would change the galaxy forever. And so, with steady hearts and clear eyes, Earth prepared to face the future. They would fight not just with weapons, but with truth, courage, and unity. The journey was far from over. But the first steps had been taken, and in those steps there was hope. The battle to protect the small planet had shown the galaxy that Earth and its allies were serious. It was a clear message. The age of silence and fear was ending. But the victory came with a heavy cost. Many brave pilots and soldiers had given everything they had to stop the Council's fleet. Their sacrifices weighed heavily on everyone. After the battle, Earth's leaders gathered once more, aware that the fight was far from over. The Council was powerful, but Earth's spirit and the growing coalition were stronger than anyone had expected. The time for quiet preparation had passed. Now it was time for action on a larger scale. Plans were made for Earth's ships to travel beyond their usual space, reaching out to other worlds that had remained silent or hidden. They wanted to spread the truth, to gather new allies, and to show that justice was worth fighting for. Diplomats set out on missions filled with hope and caution. They visited distant planets, sharing stories of the Valari, the betrayal, and Earth's vision of a peaceful galaxy where every species had a voice. Some worlds welcomed them warmly, eager to join the cause. Others were hesitant, afraid of the Council's power or unsure about Earth's intentions. Earth's leaders understood these fears. They spoke openly and honestly, promising that the coalition was not about conquest but about fairness and protection. They offered support to those who needed it and listened carefully to every concern. This openness helped the coalition grow. More planets joined, bringing new voices, new strengths, and new hopes. Together they began to build a network of friendship and trust that crossed the stars. Back on Earth, life had changed. The people were no longer just citizens of a single planet. They were members of a larger movement. Everyone had a role to play. Some worked in science and technology, developing new tools to keep their ships and people safe. Others trained to become pilots or defenders. Many volunteered to support families and communities affected by the conflict. The spirit of unity was everywhere. Schools taught about the importance of standing up for what is right. Art and music celebrated the courage of those who had fought and the hope for a better future. People shared stories of kindness and bravery, reminding each other that they were not alone. Despite these hopeful signs, the threat from the Galactic Council grew stronger. The Council saw the coalition as a threat to their power and began to respond with force. They increased patrols near coalition planets, spying and sending warnings. Some planets felt the pressure and considered turning away from Earth's message. Earth's leaders knew they had to be ready for the Council's next move. They strengthened their defenses and trained their forces harder than ever. But they also worked harder at diplomacy, reaching out with kindness and understanding to keep the coalition united. One important mission was to rescue a group of scientists from a planet controlled by the Council. These scientists had discovered important information about the Council's secret plans that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The scientists had been captured and were in danger. Earth's leaders decided to act. A small team of pilots and soldiers was sent on a rescue mission. It was dangerous, but they believed in the mission's importance. They trained together, planned carefully, and prepared to risk everything to save those who held the key to justice. The rescue was successful, but it was only the beginning of a larger struggle. The scientists' information revealed that the Council was planning to build a new weapon, one powerful enough to destroy entire planets. This weapon could wipe out the coalition and anyone who dared to oppose the Council's rule. The news shocked Earth and its allies. The threat was real and immediate. It was a race against time to stop the weapon before it could be used. Scientists and engineers worked day and night, studying the plans and searching for a way to prevent the disaster. Pilots and soldiers prepared for the missions ahead, knowing that the stakes had never been higher. The people of Earth felt the urgency. They came together, supporting each other through fear and hope. Stories of bravery spread, inspiring everyone to believe that even in the darkest times, courage could light the way. At the same time, the coalition's diplomats continued their work. They spoke with planets still unsure about joining the fight, offering friendship and support. Slowly, the web of allies grew stronger. The Galactic Council, feeling the pressure, tried to divide the coalition. They spread lies and rumors, hoping to break the trust between allies. But Earth's leaders responded with honesty and strength, reminding everyone why they stood together. In the quiet moments, people thought about the Valari, their peaceful world, the glowing forests, and the friendship they had shared with Earth. Those memories were a guiding light, a promise that no matter how hard the battle, justice and kindness would prevail. As Earth and the Coalition prepared for the coming conflict, they knew the path would be difficult and uncertain, but they also knew they were not alone. Together, they would face the challenges and fight for a galaxy where peace and truth could thrive. And so, with hope in their hearts and courage in their hands, Earth's people moved forward, ready to protect the light of justice for all. The time had finally come. After months of preparation, struggle, and hope, Earth and its allies faced the greatest challenge yet. The Galactic Council's new weapon was almost ready, a weapon that could change everything. The threat was clear, but so was the determination to stop it. On Earth, people everywhere held their breath. Families gathered to hear news, communities supported one another, and leaders worked day and night to prepare for what lay ahead. This was no longer just a battle between ships in space. It was a fight for the future of the galaxy. The Coalition's fleet gathered quietly in a distant part of space, ready to face the Council's forces. These ships were smaller and fewer than the Council's, but they carried something far more important: hope and the will to protect others. Pilots looked at the stars with steady eyes, knowing that their mission was about more than themselves. The plan was clear but risky. The Coalition needed to stop the weapon before it could be used, but the Council's warships guarded the construction site fiercely. The Coalition's leaders knew they could not win by force alone. They would have to use strategy, trust, and courage. As the fleet moved closer to the site, everyone felt the weight of the moment. The silence of space was broken only by the hum of engines and the quiet conversations between friends and teammates. There was fear, yes, but also something stronger, a sense of unity that carried them forward. When the battle began, it was fierce and chaotic. The Council ships were powerful and well-trained, but the Coalition's forces fought with heart and determination. Pilots weaved through enemy fire, working together to protect each other. Commanders made quick decisions, adapting to the changing fight. Earth's people watched from afar, their hearts filled with pride and worry. They knew that many brave souls were risking everything for a cause greater than themselves. Messages of encouragement and love were sent across the stars, reminding the fighters that they were not alone. The fight was long and difficult. The Council's weapon was nearly finished and time was running out. But the Coalition had one secret weapon, the knowledge shared by the scientists who had been rescued earlier. This information helped them find weak points and ways to disrupt the weapon's construction. Slowly but surely, the Coalition's efforts began to pay off. Ships slipped past enemy lines, delivering precise strikes and sabotaging key systems. Pilots risked their lives to protect their teams in the larger mission. Every small victory built hope and courage. But the Council was not defeated yet. They sent reinforcements and unleashed new attacks, desperate to finish the weapon and crush the resistance. The battle reached its most intense moments, with ships locked in close combat and explosions lighting the dark sky. In the midst of the chaos, stories of bravery emerged. A pilot who saved a teammate from certain destruction. A group of soldiers who held a vital position against overwhelming odds. Scientists working in hidden labs to stop the weapon's core from activating. These stories spread across the Coalition, inspiring everyone to keep fighting. They reminded people that even in the hardest times, courage and hope could shine through. Finally, after days of battle, the Coalition reached the heart of the weapon's construction site. A final strike was planned, one that could stop the weapon forever, but at great risk. The pilots and soldiers volunteered without hesitation, knowing the future depended on their success. The strike was tense and dangerous. The fleet moved in as one, facing heavy fire and obstacles, but their determination was stronger than fear. With skill and teamwork, they destroyed the weapon's core and forced the Council's fleet to retreat. When the battle ended, the stars seemed brighter, filled with a new promise. The Coalition had won a great victory, but they knew the fight for justice was not over. The Council was weakened but still dangerous. The future was uncertain, but Earth and its allies stood ready. Back on Earth, people celebrated quietly, remembering those who had sacrificed everything. They honored the memory of the Valari and the hope they had inspired. The victory was not just about winning a battle. It was about standing up for truth, unity, and a better future. Leaders spoke to the world, reminding everyone that the journey was just beginning. They called for continued friendship, understanding, and courage. The galaxy was changing, and the power of people working together had been proven. Communities came together, supporting one another and sharing stories of hope. Schools taught lessons about the importance of standing for what is right. Artists and writers continued to create works that celebrated bravery and kindness. The memory of the Valari's glowing forests and peaceful ways remained a guiding light. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and justice could shine. Earth's people looked to the stars with new confidence. They had faced great challenges and stood strong. They had shown that even a single planet, united with friends across the galaxy, could make a difference. And so, the story of Earth and its allies became a story of courage, hope, and the power of unity. It was a story that would be told for generations, a story that reminded everyone that no matter how dark the night, the light of justice would always shine. The journey was far from over, but Earth's people were ready. Together they would face whatever the future held, holding on to the promise of a better, peaceful galaxy for all.